Yeah.
Make sure that's in this.
Okay. Let's get rolling. Madam Clerk, would you please read the statement of presiding officer, please?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and the Morris Daily Record and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Megan, can you please take the roll?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Here.
Committeeman Ray will not be joining us. Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Pasurcia?
Present.
Mayor Lavender?
Present. Okay, first on the agenda, we have a presentation from HPAC. Is Fred Hunt here?
I'm right here.
Fred, would you please come to the microphone? Thank you.
Mike?
There is a mic.
Is it on? It is. Okay. I actually have two items. I did tell you about that, right? Yes. Yeah, okay. I have two items. The first relates to a, what are we getting here?
Pardon?
We're going to apply for a, we're going to apply for a grant, and Carol is going to cover that.
Good evening. We hope to get your permission to apply for a grant. It's sort of not the same thing. Okay. Good evening. My name is Carol Prasa, and I'm a member of your Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. As some of you know, Millington Schoolhouse Old Town Hall has had a problem with water coming down the hill and into the back wall and into the basement. Some remediation has been done on this, but it's not fully resolved the problem. Since the restoration of the building was accomplished with funds from historic designated funds, that is, and grants from both the state of New Jersey and Morris County Historic Preservation Trust Fund, I met with Ray Chang on Monday. Ray is Morris County's department head and director of their historic trust fund. We discussed the possibility and procedures for obtaining funding from Morris County from a Morris County grant matched with our historic funds in order to resolve this water problem. Ray confirmed our eligibility for such funding. Those of you who have been involved in township affairs for some time are familiar with the procedure in obtaining such funding. However, I think it's worthwhile to just give you a little cursory review. With your permission, since I am the last surviving member of the team that wrote the first of 3 grant applications and the sole author of the final grant, I will work with newer members of HPAC and co-write a grant application. Even if you were to give me, let's say, a 50% raise, it would still cost you 0. So we'll go with that. Our first step is to file a document called a Declaration of Intent to Apply for the grant. The deadline for this declaration is due the end of February. It's important to know that as HPAC's title states, we are only an advisory committee and have no authority without your permission. Hence, every legal document presented to Morris County, or anywhere else for that matter, must be signed by the mayor or a designated person of authority. The Declaration of Intent is a relatively simple form, but we need your permission not only to file it, but your permission to work with our town engineer and ask him to write a very broad, broad statement of scope of work. It's usually just one paragraph to aid in finishing up this declaration. It's important for everyone to understand that this declaration does not, I'm going to repeat that, does not obligate Long Hill to any further action if you decide after reviewing future data not to proceed. The declaration's purpose, according to Mr. Chang, is to allow Morris County Department to do some preliminary planning for the upcoming year. It's a little bit like you preparing your very preliminary budget. It's just a starting point and has no teeth at all. If our declaration is accepted, we next proceed to grant writing. We will keep you updated and gain your permission before each and all successive steps. As most folks will remember, we've been able to move forward with each of the previous 4 grant applications without any hiccups. However, it's important to remember that any time through the process, the Township Committee has the right to withdraw an application and not proceed further. Hence, we're here tonight to ask your permission to proceed with the writing of this declaration of intent, as well as permission to work with the town engineers for that simple paragraph, which is the scope of the work. Do you have any questions?
No, I think you made it very clear. So I think what you're asking for, and I'd ask the other committee members, can we have a motion to permit HPAC to apply for the grant as stated?
Well, it's not applying for the grant, it's
Right.
only, well, if you want to do that, that's great.
To apply or to help you apply? To help you file the paperwork.
Is to file a declaration of intent
Got it.
to apply.
Okay, so I'll restate that. So we're looking for a motion to fill out the declaration of intent and to allow our engineer to collaborate on the paragraph describing the work to be done?
Yes, it's called the scope of
The scope of work.
So moved, and I would propose that we give Carol a 25% raise.
Thank you, I'll take
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay,
No, second part.
second part.
Next
Part
item
two.
from HPAC is the issue of 438 Long Hill Road. 438 Long Hill Road is probably one of the oldest existing houses in Long Hill. It dates back to probably about 1734. During the 17 and 1800s, it was the Hickory Tavern Road, named after it. From about 1905 right up to last fall, it was just a private residence. It was known as the Schmidt House. We just learned recently that the new owner who purchased it last fall intends to demolish the house and build a new house on the property. And they're going to do it probably within 60 days. So what HPAC wants to do is to at least preserve the architectural history of the house. We already have a lot of information on the house, some of which you saw, we sent around. But we don't have anything on really about the architecture, how it was built, what materials were used, what's the architectural style and everything. And to do that, we would hire what's known as a historic preservation architect. There is some precedent for that. Back in 2018, when 57 Plainfield Road was demolished, we had an architect look at that house. And they prepare a report, which will go to Long Township, will also go to the Morris County. So what we are asking here is, HPAC is requesting that the committee approve spending up to $10,000 of our historic preservation fund to retain a historic preservation architect.
Okay. And Nancy, as I understand it, HPAC is sufficiently well-funded in their account for that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But Jack, do we need to do an ordinance or can we do a resolution tonight? I know they do have to get 2 quotes. We already talked about all that.
You know, since it's $10,000, I think we can do a resolution, but I'd rather do it at the next meeting, so it's
At the next meeting?
complete, if that's
I-
okay.
I mean, it's 2 weeks from now, so, I mean, if they're,
60 days.
they haven't put in for a demo permit
Yeah.
yet, so,
I think we can do a resolution tonight then, in the usual form, approving the expenditure of $10,000 from the Open Space Trust Fund, that portion designated for historic purposes, for the hiring of an historic preservation architect in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
Does that work, Fred?
That works. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Now, do you have an architect? I mean, because the other thing the Township Committee could do is approve a contract.
We have to, and I talked to Nancy the other day, we have to actually, we have to put it out for bid. We have to get at least 2 bids.
Two quotes.
Well, actually, it's a professional service.
Well, I mean, I think it probably makes sense to get 2 quotes,
Yeah,
because
it's
they have a
not
list
legally
of 20
required.
people.
Right.
So, if you want to, in addition, in the resolution, authorize the mayor to sign the contract when they get it.
Yeah, since it's for such a low amount, I think we could also authorize the execution of a contract with an historic preservation architect pursuant to the terms you've described.
Yeah, then I would have to, like I say, would we put together the contract, or would they?
We have a standard form, we have a standard form, we use a boilerplate contract, and we usually incorporate the terms of their proposal. So if you get proposals from them, submit it, we'll attach it to the boilerplate contract and ask them to sign it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So there was a motion made by Deputy Mayor Paserchia for the resolution. Is there a second?
Well, I just have a quick one. Did the homeowner say they're willing to do this?
Pardon me?
Did the homeowner say they're willing to let the architect come in before they do
Not
this?
yet.
Oh, okay.
We
That-
have to get written permission. That's about the first thing I'm gonna do, is to get written permission from the homeowner. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. They have allowed us some access to the house,
All right,
but we do wanna get it formal.
thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a motion on the table.
You have to second.
Did I make it?
I made
second
it.
Oh, I'll second it.
Let me take the roll. Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
I
Okay.
just want to thank HPAC, if I could, Mr. Mayor. You guys have always, and gals, have always been very diligent in coming before this committee. You have everything in order before you come, so it makes the process very efficient. So thank you.
Okay. All right, next, ordinance 507-23, first reading, introduction. This is concerning the Township Emergency Management Coordinator and amending Chapter 2. This is real easy. This is, kind of a, the state made a change in its regulations with regard to an OEM coordinator. Prior, you had to be from the town, you had to live in the town if you're going to be the OEM coordinator. Now, you can hire somebody from out of town. There's nothing going on here. Joe Huber is our OEM coordinator right now. This is just getting ourselves in line with the state law. In fact, Nancy and I met with Joe today just to do a standard update, and he's aware that we're making this change. So that is really the only thing about it. Jack, anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, there was just a new directive from the state as to what the duties were. They didn't change them substantively, but some of the language changed, so we incorporated that language as well. But
Right.
it doesn't make any substantive changes in the operation of the Office of Emergency Management.
Right, so I guess we'll have a motion to approve 507-23 to be introduced and passed on the first reading. Have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second. Vic was the motion.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
And second reading and adoption will be at the March 8th meeting.
Okay, next, ordinance 508-23, first reading introduction concerning short-term rental properties and supplementing and amending Chapter 3 of the Township Code. Jack, do you want to give just a quick blurb on this?
Yes, this ordinance was prepared in response to concerns raised by residents. What it does is it prohibits any rentals of less than 30 days. That's the only way we can really control the short-term rentals. It also prohibits the advertising of Airbnb-type facilities. For violation, a municipal court summons would be issued, just like a violation of any other township ordinance.
Okay, thanks. So this is something that we've gotten a lot of public inquiry about and I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight. Can I see a show of hands for folks that showed up tonight specifically interested in this? Good, all right, so we're gonna have public comment on it. Don't wanna make you wait until the very end if you don't have to. So, if you wanna make a comment on this, please come up to the mic, speak very clearly into the mic so the folks at home can hear. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, there's a lot of you, but the floor is yours.
Thank you for doing this. It makes a lot of sense.
Good evening, everyone. Paul White, 25 Darty Avenue. And thank you for everybody that was able to show up for this. I appreciate it. It was kind of short notice. We didn't know it was going to actually be this quick. We just seen the agenda on Monday, and I grabbed a few people from the block to come. And kind of got an education going out, and I actually helped get the petition that was forwarded to you guys. To kind of piggyback off what Mr. Velez said, the Councilman Velez said the last meeting. It's funny, some people you'll mention this to, and they'll start off with, you know, so what, someone's renting a room out. When you take the time to explain to them who can be renting out this room, and it's amazing, the first thing a lot of the people had said was, oh, well, you know, if someone needs a place to stay close by or whatever, they have it. Again, go onto this website, and you can see there's 100 reviews. I couldn't go through all 100 because it's hard to tell where they're from. I just took like 10. 1 out of the 10 was close. They lived in like Florin Park. Other than that, they were all from like way out of the area. And again, if somebody really did need a place to stay, we have three hotels close by. If somebody's local really need a place to stay, they can always stay there. And I would hope there'd be more restrictions on this, you know, rather than just a summons. You know, there's things like, you know, other things I actually went online. You see where, you know, they're made to, you know, pay for garbage from a private disposal company. You know, why should our tax be paying for, this guy has, you know, 100 people coming. This guy has 100 people coming to the place, you know, within a year. There's a lot of extra garbage, things like that. The one on Gates, you know, they throw weddings there. Tons of garbage there. We're seeing 6 garbage cans there. They're not even supposed to pick it up, they're supposed to pick up 2. You know, we shouldn't be paying for this. You know, they should have to pay for it. They're running basically a small hotel or like a commercial property there. You know, they should have to pay for this, not our tax money and the people here. Anyhow, so when I spoke to people getting the sign, again, a lot of people were, you know, absolutely sign it, don't want this neighbor. Some people, it's only a room to rent. And when I explained to them, I showed them the website. Airbnb actually relates on their website. They do not have a way of vetting people or have a way of doing background investigation checks. And they actually have, in their website, they say, we cannot guarantee or guarantee that there is anybody renting the Airbnb that doesn't have a past criminal conviction or a sex offense. It's actually in there, just like that. And I thought that was kind of scary, but if something ever happened, I guess the big company would say, well, we printed it, you know, whoever rents it out, we advise you, it could be somebody with a criminal background. And with these criminal backgrounds, these are the people we don't want coming here. We don't want renting them. And when I explain this to people, like these are the people that could be coming in here, absolutely, they signed a petition, they don't want it. Most of us, you know, were able to show up. And again, with short notice, we probably would have gotten a lot more people. Also, let me see here. Also with this Airbnb on our block, at the end of our block, actually on Torbert, you know, I wanted to say, not just me, it impacts everybody. You know, our kids, I have little ones, everybody on the block has a little one. You know, your kid just driving down the end of the street, riding their bike and turning around at the end of the cul-de-sac on Darty Avenue. You're not gonna do it. I don't know who's in that house this weekend. I don't know who's there. You know, could be a sex offender. Could be somebody with a criminal history. You know, if they grab your kid or something like that, we don't want this. Obviously, you wouldn't want it for your kids, you don't want it in your neighborhood. And again, when I explain this to people, nobody wants it after I say this. And it was almost like unbelievable how people would turn around. Yeah, it's only a room rental, so what? The guy's making a couple bucks. You explain it to her like this, and they're like, yeah, you're right, we don't want this. You know, I want to be clear on that. We don't want it. I know you want to do a 30-day or whatever. You know, if I had to pay more tax money to actually hire lawyers to fight this, I know Airbnb is big. They have a lot of deep pockets. I wouldn't even care. I'm sure other people wouldn't even care. It'd be something worthwhile to stop it. You know, we're a small town. Who's going to enforce this? You know, we don't have the resources really to enforce it. Maybe that could be an angle we could work if we did say, we just don't want it all. Our town can't have it. We don't have the resources to monitor it, and we shouldn't be monitoring it, you know? And if this ended up going to court, you'd have people coming with you to actually, you know, give their 2 cents, and hopefully, you know, we could beat it. Jersey City, actually, they had an article, Airbnb spent $4 million trying to beat Jersey City. I know they have deeper pockets than us. And it was overturned in court. Jersey City won. They went up against Airbnb. They had 70% of the people that showed up with the initial complaints about this, and the town actually won it in court. The Supreme Court actually turned it over and gave it to Jersey City and won.
Yeah, if I could,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you raised a bunch of good points, and I think Jack can actually respond to some of those right now.
That'd be great.
Yeah, the provisions you mentioned, like garbage, those kinds of provisions are adopted in towns that permit Airbnbs, but regulate them. The purpose of this ordinance is basically to prohibit them totally. So we're not going to charge them extra for garbage because we're saying you're illegal in the first place, and we'll shut you down. And Jersey City has an ordinance that actually permits them. A lot of towns do.
Yes.
Surprisingly.
Yes.
So that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And you're right, we don't have the resources to,
Monitor it.
we don't want them at all, but even if we did, we don't have the resources to, you know, have registration and applications and licenses and all that. So the purpose of this ordinance is to prohibit them totally, period. You know, and once you do that, there's really no reason to get into the other ancillary regulations that towns have that actually permit them.
What would be our chances of just saying, I know you said 30 days, we just don't want to allow short-term rentals, we don't want Airbnb, we don't want Verbo.
Well, that's what we're saying.
We are saying that.
We're saying
must have
you can't
misunderstood.
do anything less than 30 days, and
Yeah.
I don't think Airbnb people, you know, rent for 31 days.
But you always have the loopholes. You're going to have somebody who's going to, you know, lease it to their cousin for 6 months, and then he's going to short-term lease it to somebody else for 2 weekends a month and things like that.
Well, if
These
they do
things
that, they're in
happen.
violation.
Who's going to enforce that?
Well, it has to be the code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And some ordinances are more difficult to enforce than others. I mean, it's just a fact of life. Like operating a business in a residential zone has always been a difficult ordinance to enforce.
Right.
But it may require you as the neighbors to, you know, keep a log. This weekend, the car came in from, you know, Alabama. The next weekend, somebody came in from Massachusetts. You know, and then we can go to court with that kind of evidence. But the purpose of this is just to prohibit them. And, you know, I read a lot of ordinances, and the only real way to do it is to set a minimum number of days, which is beyond the usual Airbnb term.
Right. I appreciate that you're on our side with this. It sounds like it. Okay, I'll shorten my speech then, since that went so well. And I appreciate, you know, you guys have the power to actually protect, you know, our children in the neighborhood, our families from, you know, undesirable people coming from other areas and possibly causing harm to our family, doing burglaries, whatever. And, you know, we appreciate it. The more stricter you can make this, you know, believe me, we're all behind you.
No, we hear you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And since this has happened, you know, I'm not going to go into it too much, but, you know, my wife even said today before I came, she goes, you know, we really did change our lifestyle. You know, during the day, you know, I'm sure a lot of people do it. I always left my doors open during the day. Kids ran in and out, got the door. You know, we go to the store for a few minutes, we left the door. Now, we lock it. My wife put up cameras all over because of this Airbnb. It actually impacted the way we live, you know, and it's really not fair. You know, we bought our home, and we bought our home because there's no commercial properties around there. It's not a multifamily zone, and basically now it's multifamily. You know, you have a guy renting his basement out. Like I stated the last time I was here, it's almost like a hotel. 100 people in 2 years, and not everybody leaves a review. You know, I don't want to beat a dead horse. You get my point. But that's about it. Okay,
right.
I thank you very much, and I appreciate you, you know, moving on this so quickly. I know you guys have a lot of other ordinances and stuff like that, and you know, we appreciate it, and we probably want to hear from a few more people.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
Please state your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Andrea Piazza. I'm at 20 Torbert Road, which is the direct neighbor to 24 Torbert, which is the current Airbnb that a lot of people are talking about. So, and I appreciate everybody pulling this together with the town council and short-term rental. But the topic is not only about our peace and quiet, but for our residents, it's mainly about our safety. We didn't buy our houses in this neighborhood not to know our neighbors. We didn't buy it in Long Hill to live next to transients. This impacts my family every single day. It takes seconds for a child to be abducted. Once someone learns patterns, it can be easy for someone to stay at a short term and swipe a kid. For there to be an altercation and someone get pushed or tossed off the cliff that's at the end of Doherty, or even shot. So most crimes to occur, it only takes learning routines like the school bus drop at the same time every day, garbage night, recycle night. There are children on the street, mine included. The bus stop is at 36 Doherty, so it's a little over a quarter mile of walk to my house. I don't feel comfortable having my almost 10-year-old, who's very responsible, walk down the street. There's no sidewalks, I don't know who's staying next door. Then there's other kids on the street. We live in a cul-de-sac. They want to come ride their bikes, they want to ride their scooters, rollerblades. We don't know who's at the end of this road. And it's also really dark in the circle. The last street light is at 67 across the street. There's nothing in front of our house. So it is so dark that we can't even put the recycles out or garbage out and teach my son grown-up chores to do on his own because I don't trust who's next door. We have to actually have it do it during the day with us so we can see. I've also contacted the police on different occasions when things seemed out of the ordinary. Once 2 men were dropped off by a ride share and they were just sitting on the barrier. Another time there was a man sleeping in a pickup truck in the circle when I was walking to the bus stop at 3:45 in the afternoon. Were they waiting to get in? I don't know, but none of them lived on the street. Another time my credit card number was stolen. My credit card did good on that. However, packages from the fraudulent charges started arriving at my house in my name, but addressed to 24 Torbert Road. So my mailman was putting it in my box because it's my name. But when are these people going to start coming looking for their packages? We have cameras all outside our house because we don't feel comfortable anymore. So our 2 houses on the street don't show up on a map. They actually show up, like the ways, they'll show up off of gates. So there's nobody who can, I have to give explicit directions on how to find my house. People trying to find this Airbnb go down the street, they look at every single house. So we have strangers looking at every single house on this street. They come up my driveway thinking it's my house. I have dogs. What if someone gets bit? Then it's my fault and my problem, even though they're on my property. Are people using this as a transaction for meetup for drugs or trafficking? And what if it goes wrong and there's a shootout in our neighborhood? I mean, they don't do background checks like Paul was saying. We don't know who's in our neighborhood. I mean, when there's an Airbnb in town, we don't know that anymore. Ordinance are great, and I'm glad we're looking to, make them stop, because, what would happen if something happens to our children in Long Hill? Would ordinance help get them back or heal them if they're hurt? We need to stop them from coming.
Thank you. Thanks for articulating the risks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, I hope the fact that we're moving quickly on this gives you heart.
Yes, and it does.
Okay.
It's very good. And that's when I had a few suggestions because I did look up online different things that we could be done to really help, make sure that it's just the 30 days. A lot of townships and a lot of cities are just, when they're doing the 30 days, they're also putting a cap on it. So
Yeah.
it really can't.
Well, there'll be another reading on this, and you're welcome to come, and let's watch this evolve. But,
Excellent.
it starts with the first step, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much.
I did forget to ask Paul, and maybe Paul knows. When did this begin? Was it,
Yes, but we only
October-
recently found out.
so
Yeah.
right during
Yes, so he
COVID?
bought the house in October 2020. July. He bought it in July and moved in right during
It's
COVID.
been open for 119 weeks, and there's 117 reviews.
Right, that's what I thought you said, there was 100.
At least one person new per week, and
There's-
those are only the people that leave reviews.
And before that, it hadn't happened, it just,
No, it was happening. So I think I'm the person who's most impacted because I live right next door. I pass the house to get to my house every day.
right.
And there are a few times it was fishy. Like one time when it was snowed, we had our ATV because we were clearing the driveway, and the ATV couldn't get back up because it was too slippery. So we just left it in, and he had texted me, the neighbor, and he's like, well, my guest has to get out. I'm like, it's a snowstorm.
But nobody noticed anything in 2019, for example?
No,
so
he
this-
bought it in July 2020.
2020.
So
I
he
get-
bought it in July. And then
Understood. I'm sorry for belaboring the point,
That's
I
okay.
just was trying to get a context.
Concept, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks so much.
Next. Please state your name and address.
Sure. David Richards, and it's 50 Darity Ave. So I live a few houses up the street from Torbert, well, which is at the end of our street. But in advance, I'll try to keep it brief because it sounds like we have good support, and we appreciate everything with that. So my wife and I moved to Gillette 12 years ago. We had carefully looked around and specifically chose a quiet cul-de-sac, fairly similar to the streets that we both grew up on. I wanted to provide our children with the same opportunities. We had to go out and ride bikes, meet friends, and be part of a neighborhood where everybody looked out for each other with minimal fears. I understand times are different today. However, we feel that we had that until this Airbnb came to our neighborhood. I'm now afraid to let my 7 and 10-year-old children out even in the front yard without guarding and protecting them. I installed extra deadbolts and security systems into my house, and I'm afraid to step foot in the quiet little street for fear of getting hit by some random car creeping down our neighborhood looking for a place to crash for the night. On a daily basis, I find cars turning around in driveways, parking on the cul-de-sac, coming and going in the middle of the night, and it's even a common occurrence to see intoxicated individuals stumbling up the street. What sold us on our house when we were looking was we chatted with the neighbors. There was an overwhelming mentioning of each other, caring for each other, and looking out for each other. We didn't even lock our doors. They didn't even lock their doors. Nobody really even knew that we existed. Now we're advertised on a website for anyone who wants to come enjoy our neighborhood at our children's expense. Coming from a family of law enforcement, I did a lot of research to make sure that the place where I live is safe, and I feel that way and felt that way. Short-term rentals, such as the ones at the end of our street, places us out there for anyone who wants to come and enjoy our neighborhood. Sexual predators, criminals, and people with no investment to the neighborhood that we have put so much effort into. I understand that under certain criteria, residents have the right to rent out their house, but to put it on the internet and not even interact with the people coming and going is at the expense of our children, and that is not okay in my book. I appreciate you putting forth common sense ordinances that keep my children safe. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Next, come on up, sir. Please state your name and address.
Yes, Kevin Franken, 41 Doherty Avenue. 39 years ago, my late wife and I bought our home there. I've stayed there after she passed away. But I was very concerned because I went from being very busy to having a lot of time, as well as being alone in my residence. And during this, I started to notice all these cars and everything, and I was trying to figure out, like, what's going on? I mean, it's the type of street where even someone who moves in new, you eventually know, oh, they own the Volvo, oh, that's the house with this. But I, had to take extra security measures being alone. I mentioned to Paul White the other day that it may sound crazy, but for me to go downstairs, say, to do laundry in the summer, I shut my windows because I don't know who's on the block. And as someone alluded to, and I was speaking with one of the young mothers one time, there was this couple that was obviously on drugs or something. And, they spent a little while in front of my house, and I'm a little, concerned. So, and I've also had to, take additional precautions. I mean, I had a Ring doorbell. Now I have cameras every side of my house. I came home from a grief program that I was attending on a Thursday night, and here's this random stranger walking down the street, because you know the people on Milton, you know the people on Gates that are the regular walkers and everything. And I was a little nervous because he slowed up a little, and I was like, So now I have dusk to dawn lights, and I feel like I'm the one that's been inconvenienced making additional purchases to secure my property and myself, because essentially a hospitality business has opened up at the end of my street, and that's all it is. From a taxpayer standpoint, if I built a hotel in town, I'm sure there'd be some ordinance or something to charge people an occupancy tax. But we don't even reap any benefit. All we reap is cost. So I'm very much concerned about this. I'm concerned about particularly people that speed down the block, because while I have no little ones, I do have 2 granddaughters that are 4, and if they come to visit, and I'm very concerned if especially one who likes to run, runs out in the street, you know, and even talking with neighbors, you know, just chatting, you know, usually wave to people and everything. It's like, I never saw that person. I never saw that car. My time up. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you putting forth this ordinance, and I do hope it passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Next. I know you, but please state your name and address for the record.
Joe Smith?
No, you're not.
Tom Groscuff, Gillette. You can find me if you need me. Thank you all for this. This is a great ordinance. Short-term rentals don't necessarily work out well. Questions? Do we allow hotels in this town? No. Do we allow? No, we don't. It's excluded. Do we allow businesses, especially ones that open their door and transients can come in and out, to operate in residential zoned areas? No, we don't. So this kind of falls into that same bucket, where it's a short-term rental is the same as staying in a hotel for a night. And it's a business, and somebody's making a profit out of it. And it's not regulated, we don't know. A longer-term rental, somebody staying for a month or 6 months if you're renting your house out, that kind of makes sense. Somebody's adhering to the norms of the neighborhood. They want to be a part of the neighborhood for a while. That's not the people coming in, renting for a night, whatever night, causing whatever ruckus. In fact, I think Paul White could speak to the fact that there was a response to a review by the owner of this facility. I call it a facility. It really is a home, isn't it? And speaking about how the people who rented this apartment, for lack of a better term, on your way?
Wait, we found the short-term renter. He's sitting right there in the front.
There he is.
How they muddied up this place, didn't respect it, left it a mess. So if anybody says that all rentals are good rentals, there's proof that there's not by the owner of this facility. So thank you very much for putting limits on this and looking forward to even being more restricted. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All right. I don't see anybody else out there. Megan, is there anybody online?
If anybody on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So this is the first reading. I'll ask for a motion to approve ordinance 507-23, and this will go to second reading at the next meeting?
March 8th.
March 8th? Okay. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes. Okay. All right, moving along here. Okay, for ordinance 509-23, for the first reading, an ordinance establishing rules for emergency medical services for patient care facilities. We're going to postpone this one. We want to have the leadership of the first aid squad review that. So, Guy, if you're the liaison, if you can talk to Bob English, we'd like to get their input on it and then kind of bring that back, because I think it's fair that, that they weigh in on that, if that's okay.
Yes, I did speak briefly with Bob, and I'll reach out to Carly, who's the captain.
Okay.
And we'll take it from there.
All right, and find out, you know, when they'll be done, and we'll figure out when to put it on the agenda.
They're pretty efficient.
Yeah, okay. All right, consent agenda resolutions, couple notes here. First, we're pulling resolution 23.063. Also, I want to make a note, there's some special events permits being approved tonight. I just want to state for the record that those will include garbage collection on behalf of the town. They did anyway, we just want to make it crystal clear, as we were asked. And also two, Nancy, I think we're amending 23-065. Let me go to that. And this is for the officer in charge. We're just modifying item number 5. Basically, we're changing the second sentence. It's going to say the township police vehicle may be used for personal business limited to the immediate family. And the reason is Officer Chambrello needs to bring her child to daycare. So, that is the change to 23-065. I don't see any other abstentions. I know Brendan had a couple, but he's not here. So can I hear a motion to approve consent resolutions 23047 through 23066 with 23065 amended as stated and 23063 pulled?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes. Okay. I can't believe I said that and got it right.
There you go.
Give yourself a star.
Yeah, I'll give myself a star. Okay, next, 23-067. This is authorizing the approval of a settlement agreement and release with Ahmed Naga. There's one minor change to the resolution. Please replace the word resignation with retirement, since that's the action that is occurring. And I know a lot of people are here that want to comment on this tonight, and you're welcome to give your comments during public session. I'll just state up front that there's a confidentiality clause to this agreement, so we're really prevented from answering any questions on this. At some point, the agreement may be available through legal means. Jack, you can...
If we're required by applicable law, it'll be released.
Right, right. But, I just want to make that clear to folks because I know a lot of people are interested in it. So, can I have a motion to approve 23-067?
So moved.
I will second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
No.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes. Okay. Moving forward, liaison reports. Matt, do you want to start?
Sure. Fire Department, we have the much-anticipated venison dinner coming back March 11th. Tickets are available now, correct? So see any member of the Sterling Fire Company, or you can go on their website or Facebook page or email them. It's a great meal, and it's a good time. Next, we also have from the police liaison report, Officer in Charge Chambrilla wanted to let us know that the permit to carry handguns is now a $200 fee. It's $50 to the state of New Jersey, $150 to the township, and it's good for 2 years. Then it must be renewed. They're also hiring a SLEO. It's a Special Officer Class 2. If you know anybody that's interested, please go on the police app or contact the police department. We're looking for applications now. DPW, they completed drainage work along the Cantor Park walkway down by Gillette School. I've seen them out there the last few mornings, like before 7 a.m. They've been working on that. Pothole repair. So if you see a pothole or know of one, please go on the pothole repair icon. I think it's a special tab or just a button you hit. I filled it out myself in the past. And you get an email directly to DPW and they can address the problem. They're doing sidewalk repairs. They've been doing litter pickup across from Town Hall and an intersection on Mountain Avenue and Long Hill. Debris seems to collect there. I wanted to remind all residents that bulk electronic and appliance pickup is this month, the week of the 20th. So next week, Al? Or 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Bulk pickup, 2 weeks. It's not on the calendar, but we're telling you now. You can also check the DPW Facebook page, so please sign up for that. Garbage will be picked up Monday on President's Day. So put your stuff out. The exception is Zone 1. Scrap and appliance pickup by the DPW will be done on Tuesday along with Zone 2. So, Al, are they coming to Zone 1 on Monday?
The garbage,
Yeah, garbage is coming on Zone 1 on Monday, but for your appliance and pickup, put that out. They'll come and get it Tuesday. So regular garbage schedules for the appliances. And then finally, I'd just like to extend my condolences to the Pepe family. Bobby Pepe, one of Sterling's own and a member of the 5 families, passed away suddenly on Saturday. He's the owner of Pepe Electric. Bobby was on the rec committee at one point in time. He's the former commissioner of the Myersville Fast Pitch League, and him and his brothers and a few others helped get those lights put up that lasted probably 40 years till they had to get replaced this year. And if you look around town, Bobby did a ton of work, Pepe Electric at Town Hall and for the township. And if you look, people that just moved in, if you look at your electrical boxes, you might see a little sticker with Pepe Electric. There's probably been in your house at some point. So just like to extend my condolences to the Pepe family. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Guy, do you have anything?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Vic, I know you're on Zoom, so I'll do the rec report for you if that's okay. All right. The rec department started its push for summer jobs this year. There's a shortage for trained lifeguards in New Jersey, and so they're recruiting heavily for lifeguards at Sterling Lake. So if you have the certification on that and you want a summer job, young person, they're looking for you. They're also looking for staff in the summer rec camps, and please go to the website for more information. This Saturday, we're running a babysitting training class. The class is full and we have a waiting list, and if we get enough people on the waiting list, we'll schedule another session. Tomorrow night, there's still spaces available for our Red Cross First Aid class, and you can go on Community Pass tonight and register for this. $32 for the class, and participants will receive a certification good for 2 years. Recreation is running another night of virtual bingo, Wednesday, February 22nd. Wednesday, February 22nd at 6 p.m. Registration for Long Hill residents is free, and there'll be prizes for winners of each of the 5 games, so register on Community Pass. And finally, well, not finally, but if we get some snow, we're running our Snow Fort contest now through May 15th. Register your fort and your architects on Community Pass. There are going to be prizes for the judges' favorite snow forts. That is, if we get snow. Lastly, charge up those cameras and clean those lenses. I'm just reading this, folks. Our Long Hill Winter Landscape Photography Contest continues through March 15th. Enter for free on Community Pass. Last year's winners had their photos reappear on this year's town calendar. That was nice, and our residents will get published for their creative talents. And then lastly, mark the calendars. Our spring egg hunt will be here before you know it. Saturday, April 1st, 10 a.m. sharp at Cantor Park. Free for Long Hill residents, 8 and under. Free petting zoo and pony rides. Special adult egg hunt. What is a special adult egg hunt?
You have adult prizes in the egg.
They have like liquor or something?
No, I don't think it's liquor. No,
No.
gift certificates, things like that.
Oh, okay. So a special adult egg hunt. There you have it. Gift certificates and something. Hippity hoppity. We're going to hear Peter Rabbit join us. Hop on over. Have a good meeting. That's from Lisa Scanlon. Thank you. All right. That's it. And administrators report.
I just had one thing. I just want to report that the lights have been installed on Main Avenue, part of that big reconstruction project of Main Avenue. So they have not been energized yet, so they are not on yet. But it is one of the last pieces of the project. We just have, as when spring comes, benches, trash cans, and flower pots. And I also had to report that like 5 of the bulbs are out on the existing lights. So Al, if you could take care of that. So the project is almost done.
Okay. Anything else?
Yep, that's it.
All right. So discussion items. Why don't we go senior center HVAC construction fees first? What's the story with that?
We had a request from the senior center. They are having a new HVAC system put in, and they would need to get a permit, a construction permit, and it is $853, and they've requested that you waive the construction fee, or the permit fee.
Okay. And how much was the fee?
$853. There's an electrical, a building electrical, plumbing, and fire protection fee. All included in $853.
And can we just do that by a motion here?
You can.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to waive the HVAC construction fee for the senior center?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are you working with Alice on that?
Yeah, she contacted us, yes.
Okay, all right. All right, next thing, Another thing that's gotten some public attention is possible ATV ordinance, potential introduction. Jack, I think you did some research on that, right?
Yes, this was also at the request of some residents who had issues with neighbors operating all-terrain vehicles. I looked first at the model DEP ordinance, but the problem with the model DEP ordinance is it was based on decibels, and we don't have the equipment or the trained personnel in order to enforce an ordinance like that. So I looked to other towns, and I tried to make it more in terms of setbacks and things like that. So the prohibited acts in these can certainly be changed, and that's why I asked it to be placed for discussion first before introduction. You can't do it on somebody else's property. You can't do it on any public street or sidewalk or park or anything like that. The fourth one is the one probably that will engender some discussion. Within 450 feet of a residence other than the operators. So it's not from the property line, it's actually to another residence. And the last one is...
I want to make sure I understand that, Jack. So you were clear, but my head is a little bit...
So if your neighbor's property line is 250 feet, but their house is 200 feet from their property line, you can do it.
Gotcha.
So
To what distance, though?
450 feet.
Okay.
So it's a football field and a half. Then the fifth one is similar to our noise ordinance in that it's a nuisance if it creates any harsh, objectionable, or unreasonable noise. Again, as I've said in the past, generally courts will throw out ordinances for vagueness, but in the case of noise ordinances, they've allowed them because they say there's a common understanding of what disturbs the peace.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is, this was brought to us by a resident who lives, as the crow flies, I would guess, about a mile from me. So the property in question was next to him, so it's a mile.
Right.
And on one particular weekend, I can hear it as I thought it was a tree cutting or whatever it was, but loud, a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine what it would be like if you lived right next door.
I agree. So those are the substantive provisions. And it's open for discussion.
We do have to carve out, it's actually, Mr. White brought it up last time, to carve out, and his neighbor did, is they use their quad to plow their driveway.
Right.
So that's gotta be a carve out, or people doing yard work too.
Yeah, that, if you go to paragraph D, exemptions, number 4 is lawnmowers, tractors, lawn, garden, or similar equipment for residential use. This equipment must, however, operate with a factory installed or functionally equivalent muffler. So that exemption is in there. There are some others, farming, governmental activities, ORVs and transport from a vehicle, public celebrations that are government-sponsored, or safety training by a certified instructor.
How is recreational use defined?
I think it's any use other than those specified exemptions.
So if you're plowing your driveway or
Well, I think that
hauling
would,
leaves, that's not recreational use.
right, and I think that's covered by, and it's not specific, it's lawnmowers, tractors, lawn, garden, or similar equipment for residential use.
Okay.
So it's a pretty broad category.
Okay, so what would the next step on this be? To draft a sample and,
Well, there is a sample in the packet, so.
okay. Yeah, you're right, sorry.
So, if it's ready for introduction, you can do that and have a public hearing, however you want to. But like I said, I asked it to be on for discussion first because you had never seen it.
Right.
And Jack, with ordinances in the past, we understand, even if we pass it, we can revisit it. This isn't something that's set in stone.
That's why we amend ordinances all the time. You can never anticipate every situation, especially in the case of zoning ordinances. That's why we constantly are amending the zoning ordinance, because you can't anticipate everything. So, it's a first step. If there are loopholes that we didn't anticipate, we can amend the ordinance. By another ordinance. It's easy to do.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would propose that we vote tonight, so therefore maybe if members of the public wanted to speak, I know we don't normally, your call, now that I put you on the spot.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of response on this one too. Maybe what we do is do this at the next meeting like we did Airbnbs
first?
tonight. We'll do on
Okay,
first, we'll
fair
have,
enough.
and then this way, folks will see it, they'll come, they'll comment, and let's just get this right, right? Does that work, Mr. White?
Yeah, are we looking for comments now or no?
Well, save your comment for the end.
Because
Have
it's
a-
not, we're not gonna
Yeah, we're not
introduce
gonna
it, so
introduce
you'll
it
have,
tonight.
you'll have two
you'll
opportunities,
have it-
first reading and second
Right,
reading.
right, right. Okay.
You know, and feel free to submit comments to the clerk ahead of time. We can certainly
Right.
make some revisions prior to the meeting if in fact people have constructive ideas.
Okay. All right, so moving along, third discussion item, food trucks. Nancy, do you want to kind of bring us through this?
Sure. Recently, our zoning officer has had several inquiries from mobile food vendors, food trucks, to operate businesses within parking lots of existing commercial properties in town. And we don't have any ordinances regarding those, so it would require a site plan application to the zoning board, which would be cost prohibitive for smaller businesses. It would be considered secondary use on a property, so it would have to be approved by the zoning board. We had discussed the possibility of bringing it, I discussed it with the mayor, of bringing it to you for discussion. Would you like to discuss the possibility of allowing food trucks on private or public property without going through the costly hearing process? So I'd asked our zoning officer to do some research. She looked into a lot of municipalities in New Jersey. She didn't find a lot of ordinances, but she said most of them seem to focus on public and town-owned land or streets. I did talk to the police department. They do not recommend having them in the streets, as obviously that causes traffic issues. Having them on public land apparently causes some complaints from brick and mortar restaurants because public areas, these food trucks will not obviously pay taxes, whereas they're paying taxes. Another argument on the other side is that if somebody owns a property, I know there was recently a food truck in an establishment off Valley Road. If the landlord owns the property and presumably would take into consideration the tenants on that property and would not put a competing food truck in. There was an article you might want to read in 2020. Food trucks are nothing new, yet New Jersey towns still don't know what to do with them. So there's arguments on both sides of it. I guess if you choose to think about moving forward with it, you would be the ones deciding how you want it. Do you want it not anywhere near a residence? Do you want it only on public property? Do you want to do it on a case-by-case basis by resolution? You know, there's a lot of, do you want to do it only in a parking lot where there are more than enough, you know, there are more parking spaces than are on the site plan. So, you know, there are a lot of restrictions you could put in, or you could decide not to do it at all, or they would still have the ability to go before the zoning board.
And I think what was driving this were some requests by some commercial property owners, and we didn't have a mechanism for this because it would have gone to zoning, right?
It was both commercial property owners and the owners of the food trucks, and because we don't have anything in place, they would have to go to the zoning board of adjustment for approval.
Got it. Okay, and the discussions that we've had on this is not like a hot dog truck by the side of the road, right? Like you may have seen in Jersey City and I saw in Bayonne. This might be a food truck in a commercial parking lot allowed there by the landlord with the consent of whatever businesses are in that plaza and for temporary time.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a tough, I don't know what I think, other than to say the one thing you mentioned that stood in my mind. These food trucks are pretty good, right? I mean, this isn't, as you said, it's a bread hot dog, although.
They're good.
Truth be known, I love
Those are
some bread
good,
hot
too.
dogs. You know, is it fair to a local business that in fact pays taxes in this town to have to compete with that? And then my mind saying, well, an ice cream place may compete with the new
Why wouldn't we talk to the Chamber of Commerce on
That's
this?
what I was gonna suggest.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the locals, the local restaurants. That's my
Exactly.
concern.
Yeah. So maybe what we do is kind of send this idea past them and get into a dialogue I mean, because on the one hand, you know, residents might think this is pretty good, right? Because there's a lot of creative food trucks. I know Millington Firehouse has their food truck festival, right? And that's always very popular. But then on the other
But
hand, you
that's-
don't want to
that's a
swing too far in the
festival,
other,
right?
yeah, in the
It's
other
a
direction.
one-off.
Right. So why don't we refer it to Gary Giannakis?
Good idea.
Matt, do you want to take point
I
on
can
that?
email Gary and tell him we want some input on this.
And then, you know, maybe we just send Deb's thing along.
Yeah, that's what I said, forward it to him and say, can you send this out to the membership and see what they think.
All right.
It's a good idea.
Jack, any comments?
No, I think you've covered it, and I think it's wise to send it to the chamber.
Okay. All right, good. All right, any other discussion items? All right, we'll forge ahead. Old and new business. So this next one, we're gonna change some stuff on the planning board. Vic is gonna step off. He's in the Class 3 spot. We're gonna move Brendan into Class 3. And then I'm gonna step into Brendan's spot of Class 1. So what's Class 1? Class 1 is the mayor's designate. So I can step on and participate in the activities on the planning board, but it also allows me to delegate that as needed. And there's some advantages to that over time in terms of volunteer recruitment for the planning board. So I've talked to Dennis Sandow about it. I talked to Brendan. I talked to Vic. They're all good with it. And I'm looking forward to it because it gives me an opportunity to kind of help out with the master plan, which is a high priority item this year. So that's some of the background of what you're going to see in these next couple of things. So can I have a motion to accept the resignation of Vic Verleza as the Class 3 member of the planning board?
So moved.
Second.
There's also another resignation from
Yeah,
the-
I'll do that separately.
Okay.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next, Phil Pontoro requested to step down from the Communication Advisory Committee. Can I have a motion to accept Phil's resignation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, Brendan Ray will be moving into the Class 3 Planning Board slot. Can I have a motion to appoint Committeeman Ray to the Planning Board as a Class 3 member?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye, sorry.
Aye, yeah,
That's for the balance of the one-year term through the end of this year.
right. Okay, next, there's some mayoral appointments. Mary Ann Grunther resigned as alt number 2 of the Shade Tree Commission. And we're going to appoint as a regular member Linda LaRue as alt 2 of the Shade Tree Commission. I don't think we need a,
It's
No,
Merrill.
it's a mayoral.
yeah, here,
appointment, yes.
there you go.
Done.
Done.
And Mansi Patel, if you're out there listening, I got your request to volunteer. We're looking for a spot, so we didn't forget you. Okay. Next, announcements. Any announcements?
Just a venison dinner, March 11th. Get your tickets from a Sterling firefighter.
That it?
That's all I have.
Okay. At this point, the meeting's open to the public. Remarks and statements pertaining to any matter. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marianne Noonan. I live at 110 Lackawanna Boulevard in Gillette. My comments have varied. First of all, with regard to the food trucks, do we need the health department to be involved?
They do inspections. They would
do
yep.
automatically.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing is with regards to the first aid squad with the assisted living facility. I just make a couple comments. My mom had been in an assisted living facility for 8 years. Recently, my husband had to be rushed I took him to the MedEmerge in Summit Medical, and we ended up with a $4,000 bill from Atlantic Health, and then something like a $400 bill from Union County. Okay, there's a play, and I've been through this multiple times, because I wanted him to be transported to Morristown. With Union County, why there were two of them, I don't know, but he was taken to Overlook. I have been fighting this, and I'm down to the bottom line. But the fact of the matter is, our first aid squad does not charge anything. So I think when you have your conversations with them, and Attorney Pigeon, I'm not quite sure when it comes to legalese. Is there anything legal in terms of a first responder, in terms of proximity? These assisted living facilities do not have ambulances on the premises. Okay, so I don't know if there's any legalese behind that, because our first aid squads, and you may want to even include our fire departments as well, okay, they theoretically would be the first ones to respond if it was like a life and death type matter. Okay, so what I'm asking, is there any legal implication in terms of, is there any obligation on their part to respond?
There is, and the purpose, but by state regulation, assisted living facilities and other patient care facilities have to have contracts in place for ambulance services.
Right.
So you're right. I mean, if there's somebody, in serious condition, our rescue squads are going to have to respond. What this ordinance does is makes them have these facilities available, or these services available. But, it's going to have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, I agree.
Okay, and would you consider that having our first aid squad as well? I didn't realize Union County charges a fee. It was $400, I guess, for an escort for my husband, for the other $4,000 in an ambulance. I think that should also be put maybe and discussed with the first aid squad, because, support for equipment. I'm just throwing the ideas out there.
So exactly what are you suggesting?
What I'm suggesting is, right now, our first aid squad, they do not charge anyone.
Yeah.
Twice they've had to come and take me to the hospital, and I never received an invoice, which is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you're putting now an assisted living facility, you have a higher degree of patients who are gonna potentially need that.
Yeah.
On hands, a good portion maybe just transport, but on an emergency basis, we're paying for the equipment, et cetera. So, with reference to that, if they have to hire their own squads, but still will be using our first aid squad, I think maybe we should just consider that an invoice would be sent out from our first aid squad to supplement the funds for them.
Yeah, that's what's being batted around here, but we also need to let our first aid squad review this and make sure,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
They gotta write a first refusal.
I've been through all this,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
Yeah.
Leslie, the chief, did he actually sign the retirement agreement?
It's all still pending.
Yeah.
It's still pending.
Yeah.
Okay, so in theory, that resolution cannot be signed off. That's true, right? Because it needs to be adjusted, because the resolution stipulated that he was resigning, and now we stipulated that he's retiring.
And it's correct that with the change that we made about retiring, that is the change that has to be in the resolution. So you could read into that as
Okay.
the meaning of it.
Okay. But it was supposed to be effective today. So in theory, it's not really in effect as of today. Is that correct?
we really can't comment at this point in time because it's still pending. As you know, I'm not handling it, but it is still pending and
Okay,
we can't comment yet.
Okay.
I mean, you've been in business, I mean, you understand that there's a certain process that things go through once signatures start rolling, and there's an effectual point, right? So
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Okay, and just my last comment was just in reference to the Echo Sentinel article.
I got your note on that.
And I
You
gave
know.
you a hard copy because I know you mentioned you didn't subscribe
I-
anymore.
You sent it like 10:30, and I was in bed by then, I'm sorry.
I'm usually by 9, so.
Yeah. But, no, Matt and I talked, and, you know, he apologized to me. Yeah, he was a bit candid, probably overly candid in his comments. I don't think he thought he was on the record.
Right.
And, you know, this has been a very emotional thing for a
Yes.
lot of people all over the place. And so, you know, I just, you know, Matt, I won't talk for you anymore, but
I have
you and I
nothing to
spoke.
say.
I know you had your tail between your legs this morning with me.
Oh, yeah. I'm running scared.
Yeah, so,
Okay, you know, I've sent you a personal note, and I think it's in everyone's best interest. Okay, because this was a personnel matter. Okay, and when we come into these meetings, we can't discuss anything relating to personnel. When I read that article, it was very much personnel.
Right.
And the other thing is, when you put something in the Echo Sentinel, my confusion, I was blown away, honestly, because you have a resolution here saying that, okay, Chief Naga has put his resignation in, we have it, it'll be official as of tonight. And then I read last night in the Echoes. Okay, and we just got to stop this. You know what I mean? It just does not bode well for our township. And again, you know, we just have to keep moving forward. That was a personal write-up about the chief, and I thought it was inappropriate.
we're gonna do better moving forward, I can assure you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next. Hey, Larry.
Hi, everybody. Larry Fast, Long Hill Road in Gillette. I'll try to keep this very quick. About the off-road vehicles, I want to, one, thank you for moving it forward. The neighborhood thanks you. I was just a little confused on the discussion, not so much about the substance of it. In fact, I think some of the changes Jack mentioned, like losing the noise measurements, is probably a good thing, and the distance buffering is good. But I wasn't clear, did you introduce it tonight, or is that
Not
at
yet.
the next meeting?
Next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the only reason I bring that up, and two of you I emailed, we thought we'd have till March or April to try and shut this down, but they're out again already.
Oh,
And so, you know, the weather's, we never got a winter, so they're out there. And my wife witnessed an accident that didn't require the squad to come, but it's a dangerous situation. I think the sooner we can get it shut down, the better. So is
so
there any chance of moving it forward tonight?
Jack just whispered to me, we could introduce it tonight as a first reading. We won't open comment for it tonight. We can do it at the next meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Are you guys open to that?
It's fine with me.
Absolutely.
Great, because I've
All
talked
right.
with the new zoning officer, the police department, everybody's been wonderful. They said, we just don't have anything on the books to use as
Yeah,
leverage.
we thought we had some time on that.
Yeah, so did we.
Yeah.
We really
All right.
thought we'd had another 8 weeks, but
So
it's
just-
already happening.
Okay.
Good, thank
All
you
right,
very much.
so we'll pause right there, do this, and then we'll get to the next gentleman.
That's great, thanks.
All right, so which one is that?
It's not on, it was
Okay.
in the packets.
It was in a packet.
Jack, can you do your magic? Say what it is we're gonna motion?
Yes,
Well,
Yes.
can I suggest something?
yes.
Since there's 2 meetings in between, what if we did the introduction at the next meeting, so you guys can all take a look at it, and they can look at it as well, make suggestions, and then we do a quick turnaround, so it'll be on the next 2 meetings, because no matter what.
Okay, so what are the dates
So
on
then
that?
the final reading would be March 8th
Right.
instead of,
Would that work, Larry?
which it would be anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it
like,
would be anyway.
Right.
no disrespect, Megan, but I liked option number one, which is let's get
Well,
it
it's-
started and
it's
fix
their-
it later
It's
if you
the
need
same
to.
end result.
Yeah.
Right.
Say-
Well, would that mean it wouldn't pass,
Same end
there wouldn't be
result.
anything till the 8th, or would it be?
Correct.
Well, it
Regardless,
would-
it's gonna be the 8th.
No, it would ultimately, second reading would be the 8th either way.
Unless the township committee decides that they wanted to introduce it tonight, do a quick turnaround, and then it'd be on the next meeting.
That's my point. Why can't we do, if we can do it the
We
other
can do
way,
it that
why
way.
can't we do it this way?
The
That's
township-
the option A
talking-
that I liked.
My point is, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Right.
It's taken a little bit, and that's fine, but I think we know where we want to get to.
Yeah.
I'd recommend that we introduce it tonight with a quick turnaround at the next meeting.
Sold. All right, so Jack.
You
tell us
want to
what
give it
this-
a number?
I think it's 410-23, because 409 was the last one that we discussed, so, I'm sorry, 510-23 for first reading is introduction.
Let me just reopen it. Here it is.
Yeah, of course it is.
I'm sorry, what was the number, Megan?
510-23. See, Megan, I was listening.
This, someone should move to introduce ordinance 51023 entitled Concerning Off-Road Vehicles and Supplementing and Amending Chapter 3 of the Township Code entitled Police Regulations. The second reading and public hearing would be on the 22nd of February.
22nd or 28th?
22nd.
22nd,
2
okay.
weeks.
All right, thank you.
So moved. Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Larry.
Sir.
Good evening. My name is Roy Russin, Milton Avenue in Gillette. Moved in about 22 years ago and discovered a water problem in the front of my house that turns to ice.
I knew you looked familiar. I was
Yes.
trying to place this.
Yeah, 20 years we've been battling this. And about 2 years ago, we were all excited on the street because the township was showing up with their trucks and they were going to put in a new drainage system to deal with my neighbor's sump pump that, was leaching out onto his lawn. And they put a nice storm grate in, and then we all realized your guys are running this pipe the wrong way. They're running it uphill to another storm grate where they should have probably ran it down our street, not probably, definitely should have ran it down our street because water runs downhill, put in a couple more catch basins along the way to the sewer pipe that is on the other side of my neighbor's property. It was an extra 60 feet, and they could have solved this by going in the other direction. But no one listened to us. The town guys were great, and they were like, listen, we know about this problem, we've been dealing with it, but we're doing what we're told, running the pipe uphill. So at any rate, this year, well, let me get back to this. They also promised when they're gonna pave our street, that they were gonna crown it properly so the water and the ice wouldn't cross the street. Well, it actually made it worse. Now the water and the ice is actually crossing over the street, going down to my neighbor's driveway and down his driveway. And he told me he did a header a couple weeks ago when we had that deep freeze and all the water froze. And he went to get his mail and fell on the ice. I don't know if you want to look at these pictures or not, but
I would like to, actually.
Yeah?
I remember when you started speaking, I said, I know this.
So these are the pictures I took when we had the deep freeze. Okay, now it's fine because,
Right.
it's been 60 degrees. I also came across a street in Chatham, take these two here, that Chatham did their own little drainage that I think would have been the proper way of doing it. Now, from what I understand, before I even moved in to my house, the previous owner was getting his mail, fell, broke his hip, and he was an elderly gentleman and died a few short months, after that. I watched my neighbor down the hill from me get her mail and do a header. I happened to miss the gentleman across the street, his fall, but it's a problem, and it crosses the street. And years ago when we had a heavy snow, I mean, you guys had to get a backhoe, bulldozer, to get in there and break this ice up. This isn't just a little, trickle. This is something serious. And
When were these pictures taken?
when we had that cold spell,
Yeah,
when it was like
literally,
15 degrees,
They look.
that was like, I don't know, it's 3 weeks
seriously
ago?
like the ones we saw, whatever it was, 2 years ago?
No, these are different.
No, that's why.
Yeah, these are just taken a few weeks ago
But
when
what-
it was.
What happened? Because that wasn't last year when you were here before.
It was here like
us.
2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And what happened in the interim? It kind of stopped, or was it just still bad all during?
No, it hasn't really changed because I think there's a few springs. There's one definitely right in the center of my front yard. That's what you're seeing, like the one that has all the bulk of the ice.
Right.
Okay, that's taken from the center of my front yard. But it also comes down the street, and it also comes on an angle through my retaining wall across my driveway and into the street.
So it was bad last year as well. You
It's bad every
so
year.
You just didn't come back.
Yeah, I come out with a ton of, I don't know how many 5-gallon drums of salt I throw down every year, but it's enormous.
Does the water go into the sewer drain at all? I know, but the pipe flows, maybe the pipe flows uphill, but is it actually going in the drain
Well,
at all?
my neighbor's sump pump's going directly into it.
Into the drain?
Yeah, but
Okay, so sub pump
that's up the
discharges-
hill.
Okay.
This is all down from him, okay? And I'm not saying, and this water problem, it's a new house.
I know
You know what I'm talking about, Matt. But this water problem existed before that house was even put up. It's an underground spring in 2 spots, and it just feeds the water constantly, and then the ice. And it's it's downright dangerous. I mean it's gotten worse.
So Nancy had some experience with this. Do you want to comment?
Right, so I know that our engineer and our DPW director have been out there several times. I know that, I obviously didn't know you were coming here, but from what I remember from last year speaking to the engineer, there, in addition to your spring, there are other there's at least one other spring that is causing the majority of the water. While we can sit there and have DPW continue to salt the road, that is not the answer. The answer is dealing with the springs, and unfortunately, that is not the town's responsibility, that's the homeowner's responsibility. So, we need to look into to make sure what is coming from the springs and what is an issue with the drainage. I have no idea. and
Why did the town do my neighbor's sump pump?
Why did we do? what-
Why did you put a storm drain in for my neighbor's sump pump and run it up the hill?
So again, I
Wouldn't you
can't
think a
speak,
spring would fall under that category more so than a sump pump?
well, I can't speak to the drainage or the issues with the piping. And so what I suggested to the mayor is that we'd sit down and have a meeting with the DPW director and the engineer and finally get to the bottom of what's causing the problems and try to resolve it.
Okay, well, I think 2 storm drains. I mean, I wish he would have knocked on my door 2 years ago. I would have told him exactly where these drains need to go, because I've lived there so long, I've dealt with this for so long. I know exactly where the springs are, and I know exactly where to put the storm drains, and another 60 feet, it would have been all taken care of, and we wouldn't be having this discussion this evening.
Okay. I think if you leave your contact information with Megan, or if you could email me, we can set something up to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, come on up.
Pamela Ochins, 36 The Crescent in Millington. My questions pertain to Resolution 23-067, the approval of a settlement agreement and release with Ahmed Naga. My first question is, how does the settlement get paid? And that would be specifically the township legal fees and the actual settlement. Does the GIF, the General Insurance Fund, have to approve the settlement amount? Does the GIF cover 100% of the settlement? If not, where will the money come from? Does the GIF have a deductible amount? If so, how much?
I'm going to ask Jack to answer. What I said previously still is in effect. We're not able to comment on that due to a confidentiality clause in it. But Jack, you want to?
Well, if you could just educate the public on the GIF.
I believe the deductible on the GIF is $20,000?
Correct.
So we're responsible for the first 20,000.
20.
As the mayor said, I don't.
Legal fees.
Yes. As the mayor said, we really can't comment on the rest because there is a confidentiality provision in the agreement.
So, correct me if I'm hearing this right, the first $20,000 deductible is for legal fees?
Well, that's what, yeah, right, that's what we paid
Our attorney.
the attorney
The
who
GIF
represented, right, the joint insurance fund attorney who represented us on this.
The first $20,000. We know it exceeded $20,000, but the first, and the settlement, is there a deduction for the settlement? I'm not asking what the settlement's gonna be, but is there a
The
deduction?
deduction is for the whole thing.
So that includes legal fees and settlement? $20,000
And we have to
deductible.
contribute to a settlement, but that $20,000 is the deductible.
Okay, so basically that $20,000 is both legal fees and settlement?
No.
So,
Just like
20% of the 20% of any settlement the town is required to cover.
okay. So 20% of the
At least
settlement.
20%. It can vary based on an agreement between the GIF, and it's a negotiation between the GIF and the town. But it's a minimum of 20% of the settlement, unless we negotiate otherwise.
And where has thought been given where that money's gonna come from? I'm just asking because we know it's gonna, it could be, I've spoken to several lawyers and this could exceed $1 million is what they have told me. So do you have any idea where we're gonna get the money for this settlement?
Yes.
And it is.
I'm sorry?
And it is. What is your
It's actually from last year's budget. We have money in last year's budget for it.
exceeding $1 million?
Wait,
We didn't say
that's
that.
speculation. It's
Just,
$1
I'm
million.
just throwing out a number.
Let me just say this, that the number that we need to come up with, we came up with already.
And from last year's budget.
Correct.
It's quite something to have that kind of an excess. As far as the date, the February 8th, when I retired, I had to give a letter of intent with a date. From what I'm hearing today, and I can understand you might not be able to answer this, it sounds like you have not received such a letter of intent to retire. It's not in your hands yet. So my question is, if you don't have it firm, how can you set a date?
We've set a date, and we can't comment on the content of the separation.
Next question is regarding the master plan, and having served on the then master plan committee for 3 years, before the committee was disbanded by the then mayor in December of 2019, do you have an idea of a date when the master plan elements, I know the most important being municipal land use, can be presented to the public?
That's really something for the planning board to comment on it.
Can we get, we have a liaison to the planning board, correct?
Right.
And that liaison is who?
We'll get that information. My understanding that this was, the expectation was that it was going to happen this year.
This year?
Right.
We're on a 10-year requirement. I believe that date is...
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not an expert on it yet. I haven't even sat on the planning board yet, but I promise that I'll come up to speed with it and be able to be a little bit more helpful in the future.
Who's our liaison currently on the planning board?
Well, we don't have a liaison, we have 2 members. The mayor is automatically a member, and then 1 member of the township committee is elected.
Right.
And as you
Brendan's
saw on
not
tonight's
here.
agenda, Brendan will be the Class 3, the township committee member. They're full voting members, they're not just liaisons.
So I
And-
can
and the mayor is
address
a member.
Yeah.
this question to Brendan at the next meeting, if being on the committee,
Yeah,
if he has an idea.
That would be best. He's been on it a long time. Like I said, I'm just going on right now, so I'm pretty ignorant until I spent a few meetings there.
I do want to, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that there is no public comment at planning board meetings. So if the master plan, there's no comment at planning board meetings. No public.
Jack is a land use attorney, so I'd let him answer that
Well,
before
they're
me.
totally
Oh, it's not
independent.
illegal from what I understand.
That's up to the planning board, but there is a state statute requiring a public session at every meeting of a public body, not an advisory committee, but any kind of statutory board or commission.
So, not being a lawyer, can we have the planning board have a public comment session from now on?
We really can't make the planning board do anything, but you need to go to them and say they need to, and cite the statute that requires them to.
Can I get that statute from you? Doesn't have to be tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. And I will make this very brief, but
Pam, can I just, if you're moving away from planning board, I just wanted to make one comment. I agree with you 100%. It is critical that the master plan get done. You may remember.
Yes.
When I was mayor, I formed that master plan committee with the intent, and I believe I appointed you to it.
Thank you.
And here we are all these years later. The reason it's critical, Long Hill Township has avoided any real challenges during this period because we have a self-imposed sewer ban for reasons we're all familiar with. The problem is the law changed, I don't know, Jack, you tell me, 8, 9 years ago, that it's time of submission for an application, where it previously was a time of completion. And in layman's terms, what that means, now I'm a layman on this, previously what towns were doing is changing the ordinances after an application was submitted, and that wasn't right either. So the law changed. We have been protected by this sewer ban, and if a developer's watching that, they already know that, trust me. They look along the train line, and they see, all the towns that lead up to Long Hill Township, but then they see this town, Long Hill, with 3 train stations. And we're on their map, and so it's critical, and I say that for the public, I say it for the Echoes, I say it for this committee. It is critical that that master plan get done, so we shape what it is this town looks like, not a developer that comes in and simply submits an application.
Well,
And
that's-
also to be clear, the sewer upgrades that were part of the bid specs when NJ American Water bought the sewer system, all of those upgrades must be completed by 5 years from the signing of that contract sale, and that was October of 2020. So by October of '25, all of that work must be completed. And so we better get on this, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the master plan. Just very briefly, a statement that, as you said, Councilman Pizurcia, that the master plan is the roadmap for the future of this township, for the growth and for the changes. And that makes it imperative. And just one brief statement from what became my Bible when I was on the master plan committee. If you're not familiar with, I encourage you, and probably all are familiar with, but the statement, at the typical hearing on the adoption of a master plan, the planning board's planner explains the plan, and the planning board's engineer and attorney are usually available to answer questions within their particular area of expertise. Planning board members and subcommittee chairs also may describe their input. The board then receives public comment. There has been discussion that the master plan would be approved without public comment, and I think for, yes, oh, yes.
No, I'm
You have to.
Excuse me?
I believe you have to have public comment.
Well,
Correct? Yeah.
Correct.
perhaps that needs to be communicated to the planning board. That would be a terrible mistake, and certainly would not illustrate transparency that I know, Mayor Lavender, you are hoping to improve.
We'll bring that message forward. I'll bring it forward personally.
Much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you, Pam.
Good evening, Charles Renowitz, Millington Heritage Road. I've got 10 questions tonight, maybe more depending how you respond. Following up on Ms. Ogden's comments, and I couldn't hear with the microphones back from your voices, is it my understanding in the agreement tonight under Resolution 23067, this talk of the 20%, does that mean to the taxpayer that the JIF is going to take 80% of that and handle that for us?
It's whatever the town negotiates with the JIF.
Minimum.
It's a minimum of 20%.
Is there a maximum that JIF will pay in this agreement?
No, I mean,
Oh,
we do,
you-
there is a maximum for all lawsuits, and then we're covered over and above what their limit is, up to $2 million by the Municipal Excess Liability Fund.
So what's our exposure beyond JIF? Percentage, whatever you can tell me.
It's confidential.
No, I'm not asking for the numbers,
You're
Mr.
asking
Attorney.
theoretically.
I'm just theoretically, I mean. Well, let me ask this question then, if you can, I think you should be able to answer this one. Regarding finances, year to date, no, project to date, litigation to date, when we started hiring these 4 firms, what have we spent today?
What, on all legal?
All legal.
Well, I don't have the number off the top of my head.
Well, make a guess, an intelligent guess.
On what, complete legal for the last, everything, Jack, everything?
No, yeah, if whatever Jack was involved with, reading the tort claim, everybody reading the tort claim, listening to the tapes, whatever, anything that was related to Chief Nagar.
Okay, I'm gonna make a guess.
Better guess than I.
Well, if you already know the answer, then,
No, I don't know the answer.
okay, I'm gonna go $75,000.
Oh, my goodness. No way. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Question 2. Besides Mr. Pigeon, what people in front of me and on the telephone have listened to the audio tapes released by the suspended Police Chiefs Council? Who has listened to them? Matt,
What?
answer the question.
I'm not commenting on anything right now related to that.
Guy, have you listened to the tapes?
No comment.
Oh, this is beautiful. Nancy?
I don't know that I'm allowed to answer.
Same answer.
Scott?
Not answering.
Mr. Pigeon?
You already said I did.
Well, you charged us for it. I don't know if you listened to it.
Well, my bill speaks for itself. You come, you
So
come
your
out-
answer is yes, you listened to him.
I did.
Megan, did you listen to him?
No comment.
Is there any other employee of this township that listened to those tapes? You don't know?
No comment.
This is beautiful. Matt, you said in the newspaper that the tapes were whimsy. So does that mean you listened to them?
I'm not answering any questions. You can keep asking me. I'm gonna give you the same answer. We're all gonna give you the same answer, so you're just spinning your wheels.
Well, you talk to the newspaper, but you won't talk to us. That's interesting, isn't it?
I'll talk when the time's appropriate, but
Right.
right now it's not.
When will we, the Long Hill Township taxpayers, get an opportunity to listen to the audio tapes, to judge for ourselves of the behavior of our elected officials? Just keep in mind, the Memphis Police Department released photocam videos of 5 officers that were involved with murder charges. I'm here tonight looking at a mere notice of tort claim involving no murder charges. So my question is, when we, as the taxpayers, will listen to these audio tapes so we can judge for ourselves what was said by our elected officials? No comment?
Those audio tapes are work product as part of the litigation, which was handled by the JIF attorney.
When will we get them?
Probably never.
Do you understand the scenario with the Memphis and the 5 officers charged with murder? And I can't get a tort claim, and they can't get a tort claim to listen to the audio tapes?
You would be entitled to an audio tape of from the police cam or a 911 call, but that's a totally different thing. This is work product that was part of negotiations of a settlement by outside counsel.
Who's the project manager over the attorneys that we've engaged during this process? Or managers, is it one or more?
Project manager?
Yeah, who's managing our engaged lawyers from the outside?
That's you.
Okay. Couple observations on that management. We paid lawyers to update then Mayor Dorsey on November 7th. We paid lawyers on November 7th to update the town administrator. 2 separate charges, 2 separate calls. We paid $800 for a law firm to read the MRR report that was supposedly an audit of the police department and to learn how to manage the police department. Then we paid the same law firm $500 for them to write an executive summary of the 74-page MRR report that is an audit to help us manage the police department. The question is, project manager, are such observations of mine a demonstration of good project management and fiscally responsible actions for the Long Hill Township taxpayer?
Yes, you don't have all the information, so yes.
Well, I have some, and it's pretty
But you
condemning.
don't have it all. You don't have it all. So it was very responsible. It was what had to be done.
2 people, same day, getting updated differently.
Yep.
Was now suspended, resigned Chief of Police Nagas notice of tort claim given to the MRI people as part of their study? If not, why not?
What happened afterwards?
Staff was happening after.
What happened after?
No, it did not.
Was it in the report?
I don't know if it was. It was in the, I don't know. What's the difference now?
We hired them in June. The tort claim was filed in September.
The end of September.
Yeah, they may have mentioned it in the report after they voted. I don't.
We don't know,
recall
okay.
checking. Yeah. Keep going.
In tonight's agenda, you discussed pending litigation. I'd like to know, and the taxpayers would like to know, we don't want to know the cases, we'd like to know how many pending litigation cases do we have against Long Hill Township?
One. Oh, two. We have a tort claim for a personal injury. We have a personal injury case, I believe that's pending, but that's handled by the JIF. Totally.
2017.
What about the one with the,
2017.
with the retail store we're named, aren't we?
No lawsuit yet.
It's just a notice of tort claim, right?
Are we serving any?
We've only gotten a notice of tort claim in that.
On the retail store that's
Oh, no,
close
no,
by?
we referred that to the JIF.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We did get sued, I'm
So,
sorry.
so how many do we have now?
3.
You sure?
No. The reason I'm not sure is because they're referred to the JIF and the JIF handles them.
All right, let me rephrase the question. How many cases do we have pending against this township? And how many cases do we have that the JIF is helping us on?
There's 2 pending cases. There is one that was a slip and fall on North Avenue. Al knows about that one. It was on appeal, and it's still pending in Morris County. The second one, we got served with a lawsuit regarding the TJ Maxx at some point in time, and it was sent to the JIF to defend. Those are the only 2 pending lawsuits that I am aware of, and I think anybody's aware of.
Me too.
Mayor Dorsey, you said...
I'm not
in
the mayor, but I can answer.
Well, former Mayor Dorsey, you said in the article that we just read in the Echoes that if I came to the meeting tonight, I'd find more about the case with Mr. Naga. What did we find out?
Well, all I'm saying is there's more information tonight than there was on Friday or last week when I spoke to Ms. Sancelli.
One last comment. One last question and comment. Mr. Pichera, you said that we need to have the sewer plant expansion completed by October 2025. Does that mean that it will be approved by the DEP by that point in time? Is that the legal requirement in the contract?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but Jack, that's between the NJ American Water and the DEP. We're not involved.
Yeah, but I mean, no, for
They
this,
have to. I
for
mean-
this sewer expansion that you said we had to complete it by October 2025, does that mean full approval by the DEP?
It means completed.
That's not what I'm asking. Approved, is approved by the DEP completed?
It needs to be operational by that date.
Operational being approved by the DEP?
I just interject on one point.
No, no, well, they're gonna try to answer it.
Yeah, just back to 2025,
They-
because, you know, everyone,
They need to get DEP approval throughout. They need to apply for permits in order to do the expansion, so I'm not sure I understand your
All right.
question.
On October 2025, will we have the requirements in the contract to get the sewer plant upgraded to the capacity that we agreed to in the contract that includes final approval by the DEP? Because the only reason I'm asking is, if they need to do that, they got to start a year and a half before that.
Well, if they want to be not in breach of the contract, they have to do that, yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chuck.
I want to go, Joe Ferrandino, 623 Chestnut Street. Once again, I'd like to reiterate, I cannot for the life of me figure out why you people do this. I just don't understand. The other thing, seeing as I'm a borderline moron, I just learned recently that when you start out with conclusions, you end up with doubts. And when you start out with doubts, with patience, you wind up with truthful conclusions. Every time you tell the people of this town that you can't talk about something, where you slandered this man on the television with the Echo Sentinel article on the TV nonstop, and then everything that they have questions about, confidential, can't answer it, no comment. It reminds me of like organized crime. I take the Fifth Amendment. I refuse to, anyway, incriminate myself. What is so damning that nobody could talk about? Again, you had the report, it was just supposed to be, it's like Geraldo Rivera, Al Capone's vault. We got the MRI report coming out, you'll get to know then. No comment. All these lawyers, this is why I spoke out and I apologize, because I have a very low tolerance for nonsense. You said $75,000. The MRI report was $32,000. How do you have another $40,000 with the legal fees, so everybody calling up, getting phone calls, looking over this report and whatnot? 75,000?
He asked for legal fees. MRI is not lawyers.
MRI is not lawyers, but it's all part of this whole thing with
He asked
Naga.
for legal fees. He told me to come up with a price.
Nancy, please
I
don't
have
split
no-
hairs. I'm still dying for your resignation. Please, you don't want to go there with me. All right? This here, the ridicule you guys get.
All right, Joe. That
You
was
got coming.
that was disrespectful.
That was disrespectful?
Yeah, just calm down.
I apologize. I did not mean to be disrespectful.
Talk about slandering people, Joe?
What did I say? I said I want your resignation. That's what I
All right,
said.
hold on. I'm gonna call.
I pay taxes in this town.
Hold on.
Okay, I just want to say that I've been very involved in watching every single meeting of the planning board and the township committee. And Guy, I have a question for you. You brought up the 2025, okay? That's when New Jersey American Water will be able and ready to serve the applicants. So I know the grandfathering, I saw that regulation, I know the ruling. Okay, if you put an ordinance after the fact, no. So we're grandfathered on the New Jersey American Water. So do we have leeway right now? Because outside of the 62 units that are being built off of Hillcrest or behind Ancona Bistro, that is the only thing that has been passed by the planning board. So my question to you with regard to the 2025, do we start and still have a grace period from 2025 because of the issue with the sewage?
I'm not sure I understand the question, and when I do understand, I think Jack's gonna be a better place to answer it. There are 4 locations.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. But there are 4 locations in Long Hill that were
Right.
part of the agreement with Benco and now Fair Share. And each of them have whatever, 12 units per acre,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Now, I don't know if they've gone through the process of, site plan approval and all that stuff, but I would anticipate the 3 that you are aware of, the Tifa property where Millington Train Station is.
Correct.
The Laura, what we call the Laura Drive property.
But Tifa property is the only property that has gone through, quote-unquote, the approval process.
No,
Honestly,
the other,
the Ancona?
Ancona property.
Yes,
They
I
also
just,
get
I
board
stated
approval?
that, 62 units.
So those 2 have, yes.
So there's only 2, okay? So the thing is, within our settlement agreement, okay, with reference to our obligation, okay, through 2025, are we getting a grace period for the other portions? Okay, and we're all aware who they are.
What do you mean the other portions?
Thermoplastics, Elite.
Well, thermoplastics, we substituted the Lopresti property.
Which is Laura Drive.
Our settlement agreement.
There's no application on the planning board table.
None of these projects can be built until the sewer ban is lifted. Our settlement agreement contained a provision that we would make a good faith effort to provide, take substantial steps, I think it was, to provide sewer capacity, which we've done. So we're in full compliance with our settlement agreement.
We're in compliance, I understand that, but what I'm asking is, do we now get an extra grace period based on what you stipulated, Guy?
The grace period to
Okay,
do
but-
what, though?
Within our settlement agreement, it's stipulated it would take us 5 years to be able to provide sewage.
No, no,
No, they're two different things.
correct.
Our settlement agreement with Fair Share says we will take substantial steps to provide sewer capacity, which we have done. Our agreement with New Jersey American Water says they will expand the capacity enough to provide sewage treatment for the affordable housing projects by October of 2025.
Okay, so now, with the 62 units and the Tifa site, where do we stand in terms of 2025?
Our completed units include some of the group homes. We've gotten a number of
So
bonuses.
we're totally in compliance, and above and beyond, when Fair Share Housing comes back in 2025, is that when
we may
the
get-
old consignment shop, Lopresti property, whatever you want to call it, owned by Elite, is that when the application is going to come on the table, or has that been stagnated?
I can't answer. Elite can file their application when they wish. They're probably waiting until there's a realistic chance for them to get sewer capacity.
Okay,
But 2025, we're going to have a totally new proceeding with Fair Share Housing Center.
Believe me, I understand this, but what I'm saying is, legally, where do we stand?
We're in full
We're
compliance.
in full compliance.
Right.
Okay, and that is not taken into consideration a mandatory building of 110 units on the old Lopresti property?
Our agreement has a durational adjustment, it's called, because we don't have sewer capacity at the moment. So everything's on hold during the time period of that durational adjustment.
Okay, so that property is included within the settlements.
Yes, because at the compliance hearing, I made it known to the judge that the Valley Road, the thermoplastics property had serious environmental issues, and we were probably going to have to come up with a substitute property.
Okay,
That-
and
that
there was
under the-
flooding issues as well, correct?
I'm sorry?
Flooding issues.
Yeah, but whatever. I made it known that it was probably not going to be able to be developed. Our settlement agreement had 10 affordable units at that site. The Lopresti property, which is used as a substitute property, has 14. So yes, we're in full compliance.
Okay, so there's, okay, I got you to 3. I just want to let you know, in terms of the planning board, I made mention on their last agenda, they were supposed to set deadlines and timeframes for the master plan. They spent an enormous amount of time on the Shade Tree Committee. If I was allowed to speak during the course of that meeting, I could have put all the documentation out in front of them, okay, that had already the ordinance. I had to apply for a permit myself after that. You know, I mean, Guy, you may remember, because I was debating about trees in my backyard, you know, and this type of thing. There's too much going round robin over there, okay? And the fact of the matter, a township just got hit very hard. I'm not going to name who it was, because their master plan, okay? We have to be so specific in our master plan. And when I hear out of our planning committee that the environmental portion has not been developed, okay, there's something wrong. I have sent you, and previously I've sent other members documents. I have sent you a pro forma of an unbelievable master plan. Okay, and it's 3 years ago I sat with Topology and David Hans. Don't ever use Topology. I'll tell you right now. But, you know, I've never seen such a waste of time. And when you mentioned in terms of the due date, the last thing I heard in township planning was March. That's when they were going to say that it would be completed. My other issue, if you want to take notes on all of this, is the fact of the matter, who is our master plan committee? I look on the website. Who's the master plan committee?
The master plan committee was disbanded. It was started back in 12, and it didn't complete what it was I was hopeful of.
Right, so there's only one gentleman that I'm aware of within the planning board who seems to be running the master plan and trying to put the pieces together. And then he was void in the last meeting. So nothing is moving forward. Okay? And Scott, if you need my help, I will talk to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I appreciate the fact that, I know this is a big deal to you, right? Because you have a lot to add. Let's talk about that. We'll take it offline, and maybe we'll have a sit down and kind of write some of these things down.
Because there needs to be deadlines.
Yeah.
There's no truism in terms of, there has to be a public forum once the master plan's put out. No one ever, to my knowledge, no one's ever said that. But the more they stymie the public, and, I mean, they say it's working sessions, but there's a number of us in the public, okay, who are intelligent enough and we watch these things, that we could interject and just say, listen, I could show you where the resolution is here. Why are you even talking about this? Yeah. And I'll just leave it at that.
All right,
okay?
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Donna Fucci, 350 Mercer Street in Sterling. I've been following, the whole thing with Chief Naga since the beginning, and I have a question involving the whole Echo Sentinel article. I know you can't answer any legal questions. I'm not going to ask any. I want to know, being that we don't know technically if he is either on administrative leave, resigned, or retired, and none of that seems to be solidified at this point from the sound of it.
I disagree with you. The resolution spells out that it's a retirement.
Well, my question is, with the article for the Echo Sentinel, okay, is there going to be a redaction requested by the Echo Sentinel regarding the terminology of he resigned? Because it kind of puts him in a bad light, and I don't think it's fair that it's set that way. If he has resigned, or if he has retired, there's a big difference between resigning and retiring.
I think your question is the Echo Sentinel going to post a correct?
Or is anyone on the committee going to ask for a redaction of that article?
Not speaking for Nicole. I mean, she's here and she's taking note, and I'm sure you'll correct it, right? It's your business.
Yeah, because I see it's very disconcerting to a lot of people.
I understand.
I'm on Facebook. I see what they're saying about different things. A lot of people are very upset about, obviously, the outcome of this whole mess, and it's been like a disaster for the town, really. And that was basically my question: is if the Echo Sentinel is going to do that, great.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Once again, Tom Grosskopf, Gillette. I'm glad to hear that the times with Chief Naga are coming to a resolution one way or another, however it is. And I read the MRI report, and there were a lot of good things in the MRI report, and some of the things that this committee has already implemented. And I'm not going to go over them. You know what they are. It's been in the paper. It's great. Thank you very much for doing that. I think we're going to get to a place where people will look to the future rather than to the past. To that, looking at the past a little bit, we did the MRI report. It was an audit of the police department. The fire departments have been audited. And I was just wondering as to when we're going to look to audit the administration of this town. It's time. It even stated in the MRI report that the problem was not on one side, it was on two.
That's not what it said.
It's what the word that I read.
I'm gonna talk back, Matt. I've been silent. I can comment on whatever I want.
All right.
Happy.
It's for the betterment of this whole township
Don't.
if a review is done. I know that's not gonna get me in Nancy's good graces, but I'm already not, so, all
Got it right.
All right, thanks, Tom.
right? Thank you.
Mark DiGiovanni, Heritage Road, Millington. And first, Nancy, I honestly, I'm sorry that you're being addressed in the way that you are. I know it's not probably not comfortable when you have people calling for your resignation or trying to force you to resign or retire. Like Chief Naga, exactly what that man's been through. And I'm more sad than anything. Obviously, I think the question that I have, and I mean this, why didn't we just fire him? Why wasn't he fired?
It's a personnel matter. We can't comment on
No,
that.
that's not, no. Please, the forthcomingness of this committee is just, it's tiring. You can answer, why didn't we fire him? I guess there was nothing to fire him over, right? There was no fireable offense. He didn't break the law. This is a personality scenario. This was literally people not being able to play in the sandbox correctly. Let's just call it what it is. It is. You can smile and smirk and, tell me I'm crazy. I was in front of you guys back in, June when we first, or maybe even May before that. And I said, when you guys brought up the MRI, I said, I think you're being a little premature on that. And I said, but you know what? Hopefully something good will come out of it. But my spidey senses, and I quote, I said those words, my spidey senses telling me that this is a hunt to get rid of the chief. Here we are, months later, and the chief is gone. Not because he did anything wrong. There was some personality. Fine, maybe he didn't follow a procedure or two. Okay? But hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent. Let's not lie about and underestimate that. Our taxpayer money. And whether we pay for that out of last year's budget or this year's budget or whenever, it doesn't matter. You guys are here to settle the peace in these kinds of scenarios, not spend tons of money on litigation. More importantly, be forthcoming with us. If any of you can sit there, Mayor Matthew Dorsey, sorry, you're not mayor anymore.
Correct.
You can literally go on file and on record saying that the N-word was not used in the tape. This was not said in the tape, but you can't tell us what was said in the tape or that you listened to it. You literally just decided not to answer because you don't want to. It has nothing to do with legal. The agreement that you just stated is going to be public. We will see it anyway. Have you ever heard of the comparison between cows and buffalo? Cows run away from a storm, but eventually it catches up to them, and it just prolongs it. Eventually they're just running in the same direction as a storm. Bulls or buffalo run right into it, get it over quick. All you guys are doing is prolonging this for all of us as a town. We want to get through with this. That's it. And more importantly, to your point, we don't want to deal with it anymore. Moving forward, do unto others as you want to have done to you. Treat other people with respect. That's all we ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Liberato.
May I just say something? This settlement agreement was negotiated by the town's attorney and the chief's attorney.
Correct.
And that negotiated agreement contains a confidentiality provision. So the chief's attorney agreed to that confidentiality provision, and we're honoring that agreement.
Go ahead, Frank.
Mr. Pigeon, you got to speak into the mic a little closer.
Sorry.
It's in the back. We can't hear you too well. Good evening, Frank Liberato, Heritage Road. What's that?
I said the settlement agreement was negotiated by the town's outside counsel and the chief's attorney. And the chief's attorney agreed to the settlement agreement that contains the confidentiality provision. So we're just honoring that agreement.
How are you talking about it in the newspaper then?
There was no agreement then.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Pigeon, if I may ask a question. There was a state superior court case in the state of New Jersey back on March 7th of 2022 pertaining to an issue regarding settlements involving public entities and public employees. It was the Libertarian group with Transparency in Government versus Cumberland County. And based on Judge Rappner's ruling, that any settlement that a public entity enters into with a public employee, they are not allowed to not turn it over through open public records access. Is that not going to apply to this?
I'm familiar with that case. If residents submit offer requests, we will respond. At the current time, however, the matter is still pending, so we're not in a position to even consider releasing it pursuant to that case.
So you're saying the settlement is not signed then,
No,
if
I'm not
it's still
saying that.
pending?
I'm saying it's still pending.
But at some point, following that ruling, once it's no longer out of the pending stage, it should be accessible to the public following Judge Rappner's ruling.
We will formally respond to any requests, and I am aware of that case.
Okay, because that's, I think, what everyone was trying to get towards was whether or not they were going to be able to access it. In a settlement and a retirement, as it's called now, and picking up on where Mr. Giovanni was saying, if he really was a bad chief and he wasn't doing his job, you guys would have just fired him. And if he had done something that rose to an indictable offense, prosecutor's officer came in, yanked him out, like they've done in other towns, not here, but other towns. But there clearly was some issues going on that on a personnel level, which former Mayor Dorsey had mentioned in prior meetings when he was mayor. And it's just a shame where everything ended up. I think it's just it's not a good place. But for it to be a settlement, that means there is some kind of payout that we as taxpayers are paying, whether a portion of it's through the JIF, and all the legal fees, and all the attorneys. So even though former mayor did say what he said in the newspaper and paint the picture as though, there was really nothing to this or it wasn't as significant as it was, there had to be something there, because otherwise there would not be a settlement, there wouldn't be a package, and I know you can't talk about it, I'm just speaking in my own opinion. But clearly, if the man was bad and doing something wrong, you would have found grounds to fire him, cut your losses, we wouldn't have had all these legal bills. But clearly, if somebody's getting a settlement, there's some give and take somewhere to get to that point. It wasn't clear, cut, and dry, where, it was 100% on one side of the ledger. So moving on, I have a question regarding the Class 2 specials that you're going to be hiring. Is that similar to like what they do down the shore, like in Point Pleasant and Spring Lake, where they're just going to be supplemental here and there, or are they actually going to be filling in shifts when officers are out sick, or you have officers where you got short staff? Because I don't know if that comes in. How does Title 40, Mr. Pigeon, come into play with that?
It's going to be up to the chief as to how they're utilized.
The officer in charge.
The officer in charge, I'm sorry.
And this was
I stand corrected.
specifically a request on their part.
Yes.
And
For
they've
additional
advertised that, yeah.
staffing.
And
So-
in fact, as I understand it, some of the officers that we have who are full officers started out this way.
Absolutely. Before they got hired full-time?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know, like Officer Newton, Sergeant Neuschwander was a special back in the day when they used to have specials. But I remember, Mr. Pigeon, we had gotten away from that for liability reasons over the years, where they weren't using specials, that they were only using PTC certified full-time officers. There was a period of time where we had not had them for many, many years. Was there a liability reason for that?
I don't think it was a liability reason. I think it was a policy decision by the police department. And now the officer in charge has asked that we hire SLEO2s.
So my lead up to the next question, picking up from that, is now that former Chief Naga, retired Chief Naga, whatever category you're putting him in, we have an officer in charge. Is the officer in charge being elevated to acting chief now that there is no more chief?
Alexis Chambrello, Lieutenant
Officer in charge.
Chambrello, Lieutenant,
Mhm.
is officer in charge. There's been no decision on anything promoted beyond that at this time.
Are you considering a police director?
We're looking at a lot of options. Right now, Matt and I have had meetings with Lieutenant Chambrello and Jimmy as well, talking about some of the things that they might want to fix at the police station and some of the things with regard to staffing. We're working through that. But, at this point in time, no decision on that's been made.
Last question, the story that was in the Echo that Mayor Dorsey had provided comments on, was that his personal opinion, or he was speaking for the entire committee?
Well, I think you heard me earlier when I said Matt came to me and apologized for talking out of school. He thought he was talking
I
about
didn't hear that part, I apologize, I
I'm sorry.
didn't hear that.
Well, and Matt apologized to me personally because he felt that he embarrassed the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I make a correction on the record in response to Ms. Ogen's question earlier? The obligation to set aside a portion of every meeting for public comment is limited to governing bodies and boards of education. So that particular provision does not apply to planning boards, and I apologize. I only represent governing bodies at this point, so I just wanted to correct that on the record.
But the master plan does.
The master plan requires a public hearing. That's in the municipal land use law. But the Open Public Meetings Act does not require planning boards to set aside a public session at every meeting like the governing body and the Board of Education have to.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? If the master plan in its draft state is going to be presented to the public, who will be presenting it? Will it be the township committee?
Planning board.
So it'll still be the planning board?
Yes,
So it has to be done?
They're solely responsible for the master plan. Now, they don't necessarily have to have a public hearing if they're discussing a draft. When they adopt it, they have to have a public hearing under the municipal land use law.
When it's adopted, is that like after it's done or before it's adopted? Wait, let me hear his answer.
Well,
Before?
it's like an ordinance. They will have a master plan presented. They have to publish notice and have a public hearing on that master plan.
So it'll be like a first reading?
I'd have to look again at I can do it while we're here, but
My concern is that it will be a fait accompli by the time the public gets to see it and offer comment.
as I said earlier, I mean, it's totally within the planning board's jurisdiction. They have a very competent attorney. I'm sure they're following the procedural requirements of the municipal land use law.
Yes, well, we are speaking about a planning board that has prohibited public comment, and we are speaking about a planning board which has said that they don't feel public comment is needed. So let's just bear that in mind, that yes, it does need public comment and not be adopted without such.
Yeah.
So,
They're in draft form.
so somebody's got to
Yeah, we'll pass
present
that
it
message
to
along.
us.
They're going through draft form.
Yep.
Once they
Okay.
formalize,
Yeah, I sat on master plan for 3 years.
Yep.
I know about this thing.
Okay, all right, thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, your turn.
Carol Frost, River Road, Millington. Just a little for clarification, and perhaps you can't even answer it because there might be speculation back to the sewage plan and the affordable housing, yada, yada. If, for whatever reason, the water company cannot complete the project.
Now I'm listening.
Okay. And, be it, they've realized they're doing it on asbestos dump, they can't get the pumps, whatever reasons, I don't know, whatever it would be. Do we still have exposure from the builders, or is that now between the water company and them?
It's between the water company and them, and we would certainly sue them for breach of contract because they have a contractual obligation to provide that capacity.
Okay, so basically we're sort of hold harmless at that point.
Well, we would certainly.
I'm not sure that's the right verbiage, but.
I suspect from speaking to them, they will have provided the capacity by the deadline.
Well, I hope you're right.
I do
mean,
too.
I certainly hope you're correct, but for those of us that have been around this town more than a week or two, we remember how many years ago, 25, 30 years ago, when we were expanding the sewer plant ourselves and had a price. And then they put the first shovel in the ground and hit asbestos. And the price, you were here.
I was here, I remember
We're
it well.
here, and then the price went double, triple, or whatever it was.
But-
I don't recall, so that was the reason.
But you
that
know,
the-
if that happened again, you know.
That's their problem.
Well, no, it would be an unanticipated site condition, and
Say that again?
it would be an unanticipated site condition, and the deadline would have to be extended. But so would the fair share deadline have to be extended if that happened. You know, something
Okay.
beyond our control.
That was my question, really. So
Right.
it will work out without us having too much exposure.
Right.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay. Megan, do we have anybody online?
Gary Pratt would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I want to make sure that my assumption is correct.
Yeah, hold on, we'll get it. Gary, hang on one second, we're gonna turn up your volume here so the audience can hear you.
Well, how about this? Is this better?
Now, we gotta give you a little bit more volume over here.
Okay.
A little bit more.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
There you go. All right, everybody hear Gary? Yes. All right, thank you. Go ahead,
All
Gary.
right, thank you. You would have been able to hear me, except my earbuds ran out of juice, because this went so long. So one thing I want to clarify or make sure I understand, once the settlement is signed off on by everybody, and if that settlement, see, I'm going to be good. I'm not going to assume anything. If that settlement includes a payout by the town, that expense will be public knowledge, since it has to be shown as an expenditure by the town. Is that correct?
Yes.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, at some point in time, you know, even if none of you ever want to comment, we're going to see it in, you know, in an expense line somewhere.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. The second thing is we've been talking about employee behavior. I would just like to point out that the behavior that's been displayed here tonight, regardless of how anyone was treated, I think it's important that township employees act appropriately. Laughing, smirking, that kind of stuff is not appropriate. Whether, this is my opinion, whether a person was unfairly provoked, attacked, whatever, in my opinion, a township employee has the duty and responsibility to act appropriately. I think that also should apply to township elected officials. As someone else said, you know, I think a lot of us are, and I'm sure you are too, a lot of us are all just tired of this. But one of the things that makes this difficult is that many of us residents and taxpayers feel that we are not being treated respectfully. And that's something, like, for example, the article in the Echo Sentinel. I'm glad that Matt apologized to you. Wouldn't it have been nice, Matt, if you had apologized to the township residents? That was a question. I'm sorry?
Mr. Pratt, I'm standing by the article. Obviously, I thought I was off the record when I spoke. I wasn't. I didn't say anything inaccurate, and I explained that to the mayor, and that's my position.
Okay, so you apologize to the mayor, but you don't feel it's necessary to apologize to the resident.
I don't think I said anything offensive to the residents.
Okay, but so, all right. I think you've made your position clear, and I think that's unfortunate. I think that, as a number of people have said, we need to move forward. And, you know, I'm trying to be respectful. I'm not asking any questions that are, you know, trying to, you know, force you to say no comment again, or it's a personnel matter, or if it's confidential. I respect that. But on the other hand, if we're going to move forward, I just hope that it's not going to be continuing to be adversarial and condescending. You're supposed to represent us, and when we feel that you're being dismissive of us, or condescending, or annoyed at us, or whatever, that's just not helpful. I will pledge to do my part to try to respect, you know, what you're dealing with. And Nancy, I'll speak directly to you. I said that it was inappropriate the way you act, and I still feel that way. However, in respect, you know, out of respect for you, I know that you felt, you know, put upon, and that's why you reacted the way you did. So I recognize that, and I think that if we can all do that, it'll make a big difference. But I just hope that, you know, meeting after meeting after meeting, we're still going to have this, you know, back and forth thing. I just hope that we can move forward. Interestingly enough, kind of funny for me to say it since I've run over on 3 minutes. I want to say first that I appreciate Mayor Lavender that you know, you've been you know, you've given people the opportunity to speak, and you know, not get hung up on the 3 minutes. On the other hand, ironically, I'm going to ask you that on some of the conversations, you know, they do come to their logical ends, and so I would ask you and ask all of us as well to try to be cognizant that there are other people that want to talk. But I do appreciate you giving people the time to talk about the things they needed to talk about. So thank you for your time, and I don't envy any of you your jobs. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank
I
you,
think
Gary.
we share a lot of the same sentiments as you. Megan, is there anybody else on Zoom?
Kathy O'Leary would like to speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
You'll have to speak up a little bit louder, Kathy.
I thought my mic was going to work, but apparently it's not. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say, like, I know you all have worked together for a long time, and I know you all have a good relationship, which is great. But there's like this lack of decorum at meetings that I think is misinterpreted by the residents often. And I think you need to take a step back and understand that you're talking to people who, unlike Committeeman Dorsey, haven't necessarily lived in town like our whole lives, and you know, aren't privy to necessarily a lot of conversations that are being had. And first of all, I want to mention earlier tonight, Committeeman Dorsey, you mentioned a deceased member of the public as being a member of the 5 families. And I don't know if that's some kind of inside joke. And I really doubt that you meant to be disrespectful, but to me, that means and I think to the general public, that's a reference to the mafia. So, you know, I don't know what you were getting at, but I just think you all need to be more careful about like how you present yourselves. And you've heard this over and over again from people coming to you, particularly people who come to the meetings for the first time, about how you conduct yourselves and how what your body language says to us, and how like you don't engage and you don't like you're looking at your phones or, you know, clearly scrolling through like messages or something. But whatever it is, or responding back in a way that seems disrespectful. So I really think that, I hope that you will look at this meeting and look at some of those interactions, and hopefully you'll see something. I also want to talk about that article. That article really, first of all, it's really disconcerting when people come to these meetings and have questions that aren't answered, and then there's this lengthy article about stuff that you refuse to answer questions about. And then when the things that are in that article are incorrect or misleading, that's also a problem. Like the statement that there's fee shifting in employment cases. In labor and employment law, there's no fee shifting. There's fee shifting in law against discrimination, but there's no fee shifting in labor and employment law. They sometimes go together, but we don't know what kind of case this was going to be because there was no lawsuit was ever filed. We only ever had a tort claim. So we don't know what law this was being based on anyhow. But what Chief Naga was alleging definitely fell under the law against discrimination. And so that the public understands, law against discrimination isn't just damages, it's also punitive damages. In addition, there are criminal and civil penalties and investigations that the Attorney General can do. So unless that settlement also includes a commitment from Chief Naga that he's not going to cooperate with the Attorney General, we still have exposure of the township. Now, regardless of all of that, I think, and one more thing, this idea that how is it possible that tapes that were supposedly made by Chief Naga, and certainly were in the possession of his attorney, and were turned over to an attorney who represents the township, how can those be work product of the township attorney? That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Now, I'm not an attorney, but doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But in terms of moving on, I think we have a problem here. I think everybody is saying we have a problem here. And without getting to the root cause of that problem, without having, like I said before, some truth-telling and some admission or some investigation, how are we going to move on as a township? And I hope you'll answer my question about work product and how you intend to move on and why we're not going to hear the tapes.
Jack, do you want to answer about the work products?
We will respond to any Oprah request and explain the reason for refusal to disclose something if it is exempt under Oprah.
Well, that was not the exemption that you noted. Work product was not the exemption that you noted under the Oprah request that was recently denied for those tapes.
Well, it's attorney-client privilege because it was provided to our attorney by the adversary's attorney as part of settlement negotiations, and then it was provided to the township committee by our attorney. So it's protected, in my opinion, by attorney-client privilege.
And would anybody like to take a stab at how we're going to move forward as a town? This is really some ugly things that have been alleged.
Well, thanks, Kathy. I'll answer that. I appreciate your comments. Look, I hope everybody saw tonight. We gave everybody plenty of time to talk. We gave you multiple times to talk. We gave you time to talk on first reading for something, right? And I don't think anyone's accusing me of being impolite to anybody. If you are, come see me. Let's just, take this time now with this settlement to kind of heal and move forward. I understand folks are frustrated. I understand folks are angry. And, some folks aren't going to be convinced. But, the only thing we have is the future to go forward together and to come back together. And that's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard for people. But we don't have much choice, right? So, anyway, any other comments on Zoom?
If anybody else on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now.
I think Mark wants to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Again, Mark DiGiovanni, Heritage Road. I want to echo what Gary said. Scott, you have been, this is the first meeting I've been able to attend this year. Totally different. It's nice to see someone, number one, be thoughtful in their response and actually listen and look. The whole time, you're the only one that's looked at everybody out here. I think what people are asking, because this is again a slippery slope, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but to that point, there was an irreconcilable and toxic kind of relationship between two individuals. One individual is gone, right? With no understanding of the secondary party's part in that. And I think what people are asking for is not, hey, just sweep it under the rug and we're going to trust you, because to be honest, we really don't. And that's a shame, because you guys are here just to serve. I wish you guys well. I wish this town well. I don't think anybody wants to come in here and sit there and bash people over the head and say you're a jerk. That's not what we're here for. So I think saying let's move forward certainly is good, but without any action or without any looking into and opening this up and being more transparent, nothing's going to change. You do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. And I think that's what everybody's really concerned with. We're going to have the same result, the same scenario come up for something else. Again, just my 2 cents on what you just said, but again, I agree. I appreciate the way that you've run the meeting so far. I think you've done a good job, and hopefully that will permeate across the group.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, tell you what, Mary Ann, you have the last word tonight, then we're going to adjourn, okay?
Thank you.
How long's the last word?
Go ahead.
Yes. Mayor Lavender, I did send you a thank you yesterday. I don't know if you read it.
I did. I don't respond to all my fan mail. I get so much.
Well, I know everyone gets abused, so once in a while.
I'm just
we're
kidding.
kudos,
I get a lot of scout stuff
It was
coming in, too,
deserved,
so.
okay? I do want to say one thing. Up to the point, and I'm sorry, Matt, okay, but up to the point when I read the agenda, it was one of the best agendas I've ever read. And my note to you was I saw the hard work being put in behind the scenes. There was transparency there.
Well, you're complimenting the wrong person, because that was Megan and Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you. And what I'm saying is what's very disheartening. When I read the last thing about Chief Naga, and then, he's putting his resignation in, and then the town member's gonna talk. We'll all talk, okay? And then when I saw the Echo's article, and Matt, you've said you have apologized to Mr. Lavender?
Absolutely.
Yes. And I don't want you, I see you, I sense a little defensiveness on your part, but Had that not been put in the echoes, okay, I could tell you this meeting would have been a lot smoother. Okay, that may be my opinion. Okay?
Thank you.
And thank you. And again, if you need any help in terms of fast share, I'm
We'll
here.
talk. Okay,
Motion adjourned.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Marsh, where's that hammer?